We're so often measuring success by, these external metrics. How big is your platform? How much recognition are you getting? How fast are you growing?
Right.
But what if that whole yardstick is just fundamentally flawed?
Yeah.
What if the real measure of, say, leadership or any long-term project isn't how visibly it starts, but how faithfully it lasts?
That is the absolute core question of the source material we're getting into today. It really forces you to ask, what if the final judgment on your life's work isn't how fast did you scale, but something more like who did you become along the way and did you stay true? And this whole deep dive, it's really built around this one crucial idea that so many of these high-profile failures we see in leadership, in ministry, in business, they aren't failures of talent. They're not failures of opportunity. They're what the source calls failures of formation.
Failures of formation. Wow, that's a heavy phrase. It suggests like an internal structural problem.
Eggs.
That maybe we were completely prepared for the spotlight, for the performance, but totally unprepared for the actual weight of it all. The weight of obedience, of longevity.
Precisely. And the opportunities, they just arrive so much faster than our inner lives can develop to handle them. The system rewards that early visibility. So our mission today is to, explore how we can recover a model of preparation that actually sustains influence.
Shifting the focus from the platform to the person.
From the external performance to that internal character development, the stuff that happens in secret.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The material guides us through a pretty radical reorientation of what readiness even is. It offers, I think, 4 truths that just flip the perspective. So where do we start?
Well, the first big one is about how we measure readiness in the first place. The idea is that readiness is measured beyond visibility. It's not about your credentials or what people are saying about you or how many doors are opening.
Okay, so what is it about that?
It's measured by the faithfulness of your life when no one is watching. How you handle waiting, how you obey in the small things, how you deal with disappointment, and maybe most importantly, if you can stay teachable when there's no audience to impress.
That's a huge challenge because everything in our culture trains us to document our work for public affirmation. If I'm quietly working on something for 5 years, how is that obscurity itself a sign of readiness?
Because that hidden time, it purifies your motive. If you're faithful when there's no reward in sight, it means your commitment is actually to the work, not to the praise.
I see.
Think about an athlete training for the Olympics. Their readiness isn't just that one moment on the podium. It's the thousands of hours of unseen, grueling, repetitive work in the gym. That's the real test.
Okay, so if the hidden work is the measure, then what we do has to flow from who we are becoming. That sounds like it leads right into the second shift.
It does. The second shift is from function to formation. This is so critical. It means your identity has to come before your impact, your leadership, your contribution. It has to flow from who you are, not be something you do to prove you're worthy.
Right. Your job is what you do, not who you are.
Exactly. Because if you define yourself by your function, what happens when that function goes away? Your foundation crumbles.
I see the tension there immediately, though. I mean, companies hire for function, people climb ladders based on their output.
Yeah.
How does focusing on formation give you an edge in a world that is so performance-driven?
It actually leads directly into the third redefined truth, which is all about the nature of authority and influence.
Okay.
We think authority comes from a title, a position, from being in control. But the material argues that real, lasting influence is earned very differently.
How so?
The idea is that authority comes through alignment. True authority doesn't come from your spot on the org chart. It comes from being deeply aligned with a mission, with a core set of values. And here's the paradox. Authority actually grows as your own independence decreases, and your obedience to that mission deepens. You're submitting to something bigger than your own ego.
It sounds great in theory, authority through submission, but in the real world, don't you just get run over by people who are all ego? How does that deep alignment translate to actual influence?
Because people can spot authenticity a mile away. When your decisions are clearly rooted in a principle that everyone shares and not just your own ambition, that builds a kind of trust and weight that a mere title can't give you.
So integrity becomes your leverage.
It becomes your real source of authority. Exactly. And that brings us to the final reframe. If that's the process, how do we define a win?
Right. What does success look like in this model?
The fourth truth is that success is defined by integrity, endurance, and faithfulness to the end. It's not about the growth chart this quarter. It's about finishing well. The source is clear. A life of leadership that ends with character intact is way more powerful than one that explodes onto the scene and then burns out in 5 years.
Wow. So if you put all four of those together, you're moving from performance to participation, from ambition to obedience, from striving to surrender. It's a completely different playbook.
It is, and it's so necessary because the external pressures are they're overwhelming. Modern culture, especially in business, it basically mirrors the Industrial Revolution.
hmm
It's all about efficiency over formation, output over your inner life.
We treat people like machines designed for maximum yield.
Yes, and that is totally incompatible with the slow, messy work of character development.
And I like the contrast the source makes here. Our culture screams faster, but this model of formation is intentionally slow.
It's intentionally slow. When you
Yeah.
look at leaders who have actually endured, you see this pattern over and over. They were shaped slowly, tested privately, often in isolation before they were ever trusted publicly.
And the source doesn't call that inefficient, it calls it
Mercy. It calls it mercy.
mercy. How is being slow an act of mercy?
It's mercy because it protects both the leader and the people they lead. If you promote someone whose character isn't ready for the weight, you're setting them up to fail, which is cruel. But even worse, you risk all the collateral damage to the people under their influence. That slow preparation is like a heat treatment, ensuring the vessel won't crack under pressure.
So the health of our teams, our companies, it doesn't depend on how fast we mobilize talent, but how deeply we form them.
That's the argument.
Okay, so for anyone listening who wants to get on this slower, deeper path, what are the big pressures they're going to face? Because you're pushing against the current.
Oh, absolutely. The material points to three big ones. First, just the intense pressure to hurry the second an opportunity shows up. Second, the temptation to confuse public affirmation with, true approval.
Yeah, confusing likes with legitimacy.
You got it. And third, the resistance of the systems we work in. They are built to reward the quarterly report, not the quiet formation of integrity.
So what are the strategies then? How do you endure that friction?
Two things are key. First, practice consistency over intensity. Formation isn't about one big dramatic breakthrough. It's about the small, daily, sometimes boring acts of faithfulness. Just showing up, following through.
The micro actions that build macro integrity.
Beautifully put. And second, choose community over isolation. You have to invite trusted people into your inner life, people who have permission to call you out on your blind spots.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical. The value in these deep dives is always moving from the concept to the concrete. So let's talk about the actual exercises the source suggests.
Right. So if you're serious about this, the first foundational step is to write a rule of life. And this is not a list of New Year's resolutions. It's a simple, realistic framework for your week.
So it's not just saying I should rest more. It's blocking out Friday afternoon and committing to it no matter what fires are burning.
Exactly. You let your formation priorities shape your schedule, not the other way around. Then the second step is to identify one hidden obedience.
What does that mean? A hidden obedience.
It's a specific, concrete act of faithfulness that you commit to doing that will never be seen, announced, or leveraged for credit. Maybe it's cleaning up a mess someone else made without saying a word, or quietly mentoring someone who can't help your career. It trains your heart to do the right thing when there's no audience.
It's a direct antidote to the performance mindset. Love that. What's the third step?
The third is to consciously redefine your metrics. You have to get honest. Write down the things you're actually using to measure success right now. Profit, followers, promotions.
Okay.
And then right next to that list, rewrite them using these longevity categories. Faithfulness, humility, teachability, endurance. It's about recalibrating your internal compass.
And I love how the source even brings this down to the level of your to-do list. Let's talk about those two high-leverage concepts for just managing your daily workflow.
Yeah, the first one is called the mental bandwidth audit. The idea is that all that mental clutter, the worries, the half-baked ideas, it kills your focus.
So you dump it all onto a page.
You systematically list every single thing that's taking up space in your head. Then you sort it. Is this an action I can take now? Am I waiting on someone else for this? Or is this a future project I need to just table for now?
So you turn that vague anxiety into a clear, actionable list.
Exactly. It frees up so much cognitive energy. And then to protect that newfound energy, you use the second tool, the priority filter.
And how does that filter work?
Before you say yes to anything new, a project, a meeting, anything, you run it through three questions. 1, does this actually align with my core mission?
Okay.
2, what is the real cost of delay? What happens if I wait a week? a month? And 3, can this be simplified, delegated, or just deferred entirely?
That filter is the perfect tool for actually living out this principle of choosing fidelity over speed. If it doesn't pass the filter, it doesn't get on your plate.
At the end of the day, the health of our leadership and the durability of our influence, it won't depend on how fast we were launched. It'll depend on how deeply we were formed. If you allow yourself to be prepared in secret, you'll be able to bear the weight of whatever influence you're meant to have.
Bearing the weight, not being crushed by it. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So the question we should keep asking ourselves every season is really, who am I becoming right now in this moment?
Yes. And we know that this kind of work, this kind of leadership, it was never meant to be something you earn or perform. So a final thought for you to explore on your own. If you really embraced hidden faithfulness as the true measure of readiness, what is one bold, maybe even unseen change you would make this week in your priorities, your schedule, or just your personal rhythms?